Welcome to G Connections, where we discuss movies and shows that need to be crossovered, and we tell you why. In case you're wondering, the G stands for Gemma, which means parts that move with each other.
Warning, a spoiler effect is now an alert on Terminator and Matrix movies. You have been warned. These legendary sci-fi stories began in 1984 with a young waitress named Sarah Connor. She did not realize it at the time, but she was destined to bring humanity's future savior into the world. On August 29th, 1997, at 2:14 a.m. Eastern Time, a computer system known as Skynet developed self-awareness. This automated defense network subsequently launches a nuclear missile strike on Russia, commencing Judgment Day. From the ashes of the nuclear holocaust results in the creation of killing machines known as Terminators, and they rise up to destroy the rest of humanity that wasn't wiped up in the nuclear blast. The soldier leading the resistance against Skynet and the Terminators is none other than John Connor, who is Sarah's son. To prevent John Connor from ever being born, Skynet sends a T-800 Terminator model from the year 2029 back in time to assassinate Sarah in 1984. After the resistance finds out about what Skynet did, the resistance sends a soldier named Kyle Reese back to the same time period to protect Sarah. When Kyle catches up to Sarah, they both go on a run to escape the killing robot. While on a run, Sarah and Kyle fall in love, but their time together is short-lived as Kyle gets killed in an effort to blow up the T-800. However, it's Sarah who eventually finishes off the robot by crushing it in a hydraulic press. As it turns out, Kyle is John's father, leaving a pregnant Sarah to give birth to their son. The next movie, Terminator 2, picks up in the year 1995. John Connor is now a teenager and has been separated from his mother, who's in a mental hospital. Skynet has sent a liquid metal Terminator called the T-1000 from the year 2029 to kill John. Instead of sending another human soldier to protect John, the resistance enlists the help of a reprogrammed T-800. After successfully escaping from the hospital and reuniting with John and the T-800 protecting John, Sarah learns that the one responsible for creating Skynet is the Cyberdyne systems engineer Miles Dyson, and she learns this from the T-800 protecting John. Following the events of the first film, Terminator 1, Cyberdyne discovered the T-800 Terminator CPU, which they've been trying to reverse engineer. And in so doing, in the process of doing that, it results in the creation of a neural net processor that will later evolve, after more experimentation, into the Skynet. Once Dyson is made aware of the future, he agrees that the ARM, the CPU, and his lab must be destroyed. Cyberdyne's headquarters gets blown up and Dyson is killed in the process. After the T-1000 is defeated by the T-800 and the Connor family, the CPU and the ARM are destroyed. The T-800 that was protecting John is also demolished to ensure humanity's future. It's demolished by when it was lowered into a vat of molten hot steel lava, along with its chip.
The franchise then branches off into multiple timelines. The TV series, Terminator, the Sarah Connor Chronicles, exists in alternate timelines separate from the movies, and it takes place in the year 1994, 4 years after the events of Terminator 2. In this series, another Terminator is sent back to assassinate John. Meanwhile, the Connors encounter Cameron, a reprogrammed Terminator sent back from the year 2029, who's sworn to protect them. The Connors also learned that Judgment Day wasn't prevented altogether, but merely delayed until April 21st, 2011. Along with Cameron, the Connors traveled to the far-off year of 2007 to stop humanity's impending doom. Even if they are successful in stopping Judgment Day, Sarah's days are seamlessly numbered since she soon discovers she will die of leukemia. Like the Sarah Connor Chronicles, Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines also takes place a few years after the events of the second film. In this timeline, Sarah Connor has died of leukemia in 1997, which is the same year Judgment Day was supposed to take place. Although the world seems to be at peace, a grown-up John remains paranoid that Skynet will return. Cyber Research Systems picks up where Cyberdyne left off on developing Skynet. To make matters worse, TX, a new female Terminator, is sent back on July 24, 2004 to take out John and other future Resistance fighters. As you probably guessed, the Resistance sends back their own reprogrammed Terminator to ensure John's survival. Ironically, it is this very same Terminator that kills John on July 4, 2032, prompting his wife, Kate, to reprogram it and send it back to protect John and herself. John ultimately finds that Judgment Day can't be prevented as Skynet then launches missiles on July 25, 2004 at 6:18 p.m. Eastern Time, in turn signaling the beginning of both Judgment Day and the end for humanity. John and Kate seek refuge in a fallout shelter as the nuclear war unfolds. The fourth Terminator film, Salvation, takes place 14 years later in the year 2018, where John is still leading the Resistance. Skynet has taken a special interest in a young
movie film, Terminator 4, Salvation, takes place 14 years later in the year 2018, where John is still leading the Resistance. Skynet has taken a special interest in a young Kyle Reese, realizing that he'll become John's father one day. There's also Marcus, who is a mysterious former death row inmate who was turned into a human Terminator hybrid after giving up his body to science in 2003. However, none of this really matters because the filmmakers decided to retcon everything with the next film. But before we do, I
go into the next Terminator movie.
think it's important to realize that the character Marcus was originally written to be an infiltration hybrid human Terminator that was programmed to take out John Connor, and in the alternate script he succeeded in taking out John Connor, thereby changing the timeline dramatically. But the writers chose to go with the second script, which has had Marcus sacrifice his life to save John Connor, and which is how the movie Terminator Salvation ended. Moving on to Terminator 5, Genesis, is where things really get confusing. In 2029, John prepares to send Kyle back to 1984. When Kyle arrives in 1984, he discovers Sarah is familiar with Skynet and has teamed up with a reprogrammed T-800 who's already destroyed the original Terminator from the 1984 film. The movie reveals that the timeline has been altered, and as a result, Skynet already sent a T-1000 to kill a 9-year-old Sarah Connor. Sarah was saved by the reprogrammed T-800, and together they've been making preparations for Judgment Day. With all these changes, Kyle deduces that Judgment Day will no longer occur in 1997, but rather 2017. Gang heeds Kyle's warnings based on the fact that he was experiencing a temporal nexus point issue, being that he was a time traveler of two different timelines, and our heroes decide to jump ahead in time to stop Skynet, or as it's called, Genesis, from starting Judgment Day. After that movie concluded with Judgment Day being stopped and Skynet/Genesis destroyed, a sixth movie, Terminator, came out in 2019. The sixth Terminator film is actually the third chapter in this timeline, and it ignores Rise of the Machines, Salvation, and Genesis, keeping only the first two films in continuity. Canon's Dark Fate takes place 27 years after the second film in the year 2020. The AI replacement for Skynet is Legion, and Legion sent a liquid metal Terminator back in time to eradicate the new future Resistance leader who has replaced the deceased John Connor, who died as a result of a Terminator hit in the 1990s. The arrival of the liquid metal Terminator brings Sarah Connor out of retirement along with the aged T-800 called Call to protect the new Resistance leader, future Resistance leader. And this concludes the Terminator movie story timeline in the Terminator movies. Now, there's several reasons why we believe that Terminator movies should be crossover with another type of movie that has similar style and success. And we'll just go over three of them. The first reason why we believe the Terminator movie should be crossed over with another successful movie like it, because of the overuse of the character called the T-800, often played by the actor Arnold Schwarzenegger. We here believe that the overuse of that character has led to other characters falling into obscurity, like the TX, Terminator X, or the character of Marcus. The second issue, or reason why we believe Terminator movies should be crossed over, is because of fixed plot points. Now, for the first two films, the idea of a person in distress needing protection from a cyborg, or a person being hunted by a cyborg, mired in horrific violence, was pretty interesting. But when it gets repeated or repetitive, it makes the next movie that has the same kind of plot point uninteresting. It leads some fans to be overly curious about the next development of the next movie, not excited about the next movie. And the third reason has to do with a combination of two things: overuse of some characters and fixed plot points, which is ultimately leading to predictable endings. In conclusion, we believe that Terminator should be crossed over with the Matrix movies. But before we get to the reasons why the Matrix movies would be a good crossover for the Terminator movies, we first want to talk about what the Matrix movies are all about. The story focuses on Thomas Anderson, who is a program writer for a respectable software company, who helps his landlady carry out her garbage. However, he's also Neo, a notorious hacker who spends night after night trolling the web for traces of a hacker named Morpheus. Between trying to pay the bills and selling illegal code, Neo is driven by the question of what is the Matrix. Neo is then led to an encounter with fellow hacker Trinity, and later with Morpheus himself, who offers Neo the choice between learning the truth about the Matrix or returning to his regular life. Neo chooses the former and wakes up naked in a goop-filled pod, then dumped out and brought aboard Morpheus' hovercraft at Nebuchadnezzar. Here, Neo learns the truth about the real world, and at some point in the 21st century, eggheads who never watched the Terminator created an AI intelligence, which led to a devastating war between humans and machines, the history of which is explored further in the Animatrix cartoons. At any rate, humanity's last gamble was to black out the sky and deny the machines their acquired solar energy. But that failed, and the machines turned humans into batteries while pacifying human minds in a shared simulation world at the end of the 20th century. Neo also learns that free humans in the real world live in an underground city called Zion, and that in the Matrix he must be aware of agents who are deadly programs designed to destroy threats. On top of that, he learns Kung Fu by downloading it to his brain. Morpheus believes Neo is related to the one who freed the first humans of Zion, and is the person prophesied by the all-knowing Oracle to end the war. However, while in the Matrix, the Oracle tells Neo he is not the one. Morpheus is later captured by the agent leader Smith. Neo mounts a rescue mission with the help of Trinity. During the rescue, Neo begins to demonstrate extraordinary abilities, and in the chaos, Trinity temporarily defeats the agents. Morpheus and Trinity escape the Matrix, while Neo is seamlessly killed by Smith, completing the Oracle's prophecy. Neo comes back with special powers, because he's the one, and the Oracle was just pulling his leg. Neo beats up Smith and later sends the machine an ultimatum before flying into the sky, and what would have been an amazing end to the first Matrix movie, but it wasn't. In the next Matrix movie, Matrix Reloaded, which takes place 6 months later, Neo, Trinity, and Morpheus are called to attend an emergency meeting, led by Captain Noble, who informs all assembled that an army of machines is tunneling towards Zion. Noble's knowledge stems from the events of the Animatrix cartoon. Agents crash the meeting, but Neo fends them off. Afterwards, we discover Smith survived his last encounter with Neo, and now has the ability to clone himself. Smith then assimilates a human rebel called Bane that he used to escape into the real world. Neo visits the Oracle, who Neo deduces is a program within the Matrix. She informs him that he must go into the Source Machine mainframe to save Zion, and to do that he needs to get the Keymaker, who is in prison controlled by the Merovingian. Smith Smith ambushes Neo while gloating that Neo freed Smith to become a powerful rogue program. Neo escapes Smith's trap while the Keymaker is liberated by Morpheus. In Trinity, Smith tries to stop Neo from reaching the source by killing the Keymaker, but he is unsuccessful. Neo enters the door and meets a program called the Architect, who created the Matrix. The Architect explains that the concept of the One is a deliberate anomaly of the Matrix, designed to maintain control over the small minority of humans who don't accept the Matrix. The machines will tolerate a small human rebellion for a while, but then they crush it and allow the One to restart it. Architect explains that there have been 5 ones before Neo and the machines have destroyed Zion 5 times already. The Architect tells Neo he may either enter the source to disseminate his special code and restart Zion from scratch for the 7th time, or restart the Matrix to save Trinity, who is in a losing battle with an agent while currently falling to her death. This decision for Neo, according to the Architect, could result in the extinction of humanity, but Neo chooses love and saves Trinity. Back in the real world, the Nebuchadnezzar is blown up by the machines, but the crew narrowly escapes just before they were overrun. Neo then demonstrates an ability to control machines in the real world by destroying attacking squids. Afterwards, Neo slips into a coma before the crew is saved by the hammer. This concludes the second Matrix movie, which is called Matrix Reloaded. Now moving on to Matrix Revolutions. The Hammer's captain explains that the fleet has been decimated by a premature EMP blast set off by an unknown culprit, and that there was only one survivor. It's revealed that the survivor was Bane, or rather Smith. Smith has taken over Bane's body, or since Smith has taken over Bane's body. Neo and Smith possess Bane, are both still unconscious on the Hammer. After discovering and finding Neo's consciousness in the Matrix, Neo meets with the Oracle, who has changed her appearance. The Oracle tells Neo that Smith will destroy both the Matrix and the real world unless Neo can stop him. After Neo and his crew leave the location of the Oracle, Smith arrives at the location of the Oracle. He ruins some cookies and assimilates the Oracle. In the real world, Neo and Trinity travel to the Machine City in the hovercraft called the Logos, while the rest of Neo's friends head back to Zion in the hovercraft the Hammer. Smith possessed Bane, hides aboard the Logos, and blinds Neo, but Neo prevails against Bane because he's basically a digital Daredevil now. The Hammer reaches Zion, and it uses its EMP to temporarily stave off the Machine's assault on Zion, while Neo and Trinity reach the Machine City. Trinity is killed during the travel to the Machine City, but Neo survives and brokers a deal with the Machine's leader, while Smith becomes an unprecedented threat to both humanity and the Machine mainframe. In exchange for peace with Zion, Neo is injected into the Matrix. Neo fights Smith after learning he assimilated the whole Matrix. During the fight, Neo deliberately surrenders to Smith, causing a surge that deletes Smith and every copy of him, restoring everyone to their original selves, including the programs, like Oracle. The Matrix is reset and the machines retreat from Zion. The war ends and the Architect confirms to the Oracle that humans who wish to leave the Matrix will be freed peacefully. And that concludes the entire Matrix movie trilogy. There are talks online of possibly a 4th Matrix movie, which would entail the character of Morpheus becoming a villain of sorts, or a darker character, which makes for possibly an interesting story, but these are just rumors, to be sure. Now, back to the reasons why the Terminator movie would be a great crossover for the Matrix. Well, there are 3 reasons why the Matrix movie would be a great crossover with the Matrix. The first reason is location. The Matrix movie takes place in a dark future after the year 2199. The year that the Matrix takes place does not in any way conflict with the alternate or different timelines of the Terminator movies. The second reason why the Terminator movies would be a great crossover with the Matrix movies has to do with the rumors that are floating around online about Morpheus becoming a darker individual for a possible 4th Matrix movie. Imagine for a minute there, if Morpheus not only became a villain that sympathizes with machines and sides with machines that turns on humans, but imagine him becoming the next Morpheus T-3000 cyborg leader of the machine race. That would be interesting. And imagine he became a pariah to humanity in that way. That would be an interesting story. Also, the idea of machines versus machines, Terminators versus squids, would also make for an interesting story. But the third and final reason why Terminator would be a great crossover for the Matrix movies is because of the ultimate matchup. In the rumors online about a fourth Matrix movie, it also states that Neo, who's supposedly is dead, will become an AI on the Matrix. An AI that will protect humanity. Now, these are just rumors to be sure, but imagine an AI like Neo versus an AI like Legion, Legion is part of the Terminator movies. I think that could be potentially an even bigger matchup than Neo versus Smith. In conclusion, we believe that a crossover between the Matrix movies and the Terminator movies would bring renewed interest to a franchise or franchises that need it.